Hey, Wild Souls, this is Elle,
and Kerri,
your host of Seasonal Reflections. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or a curious soul taking your first steps on this path, Seasonal Reflections is your compass to navigate the ever-turning wheel of life.
And if you're ready to explore the intersection of science and spirituality, then we invite you to listen to our podcast and become part of our community. We're creating a space where myths come to life and your connection with nature deepens.
Hey, Wild Souls, I'm Elle.
And I'm Kerri. Welcome back to Seasonal Reflections. In our previous episode, From Discipline to Liberation, Astrological Shifts in January and its relation to Martin Luther King Jr., we embarked on a cosmic journey exploring the energies of January's astrological shifts. Starting with the disciplined influence of Capricorn's new moon, we dived into themes of responsibility, setting intention, and societal roles. Inspired by Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy, we drew parallels between his commitment to justice and Capricorn's call for responsible action. As Mercury and Venus grounded themselves in Capricorn, we seamlessly transitioned to the liberating energies of Aquarius, inviting self-invention and celebrating individuality. The episode reached its zenith with insights into the full moon in Leo, encouraging our listeners to illuminate their unique selves. Today, we're transitioning into a vibrant new episode, mainly discussing Elle's favorite holiday, Sabbat Imbolc. While we won't be delving deep into astrology this month, we're excited to touch base on the upcoming new moon in Aquarius on the 9th. Aquarius brings a wave of innovation, individuality, and community spirit, setting the stage for some exciting discussions. But that's not all. We're also stepping into the enchanted world of Imbolc with Elle. From seasonal transitions to the magical essence of Brigid, an ancient Celtic goddess, we unravel the mysteries and festivities surrounding Imbolc. Stay tuned for insights on how to celebrate this Sabbat and the unexpected connections Brigid has made in places like New Orleans. So join us for another cosmic journey exploring Aquarian energies and the promise of Imbolc. Let the magic unfold.
Okay, so I'm not going to dive deep into astrology this month because I want to give Imbolc the time that it deserves, but I will touch base on the new moon in Aquarius on the 9th. The new moon in Aquarius holds astrological significance as it marks the beginning of a lunar cycle and presents an opportunity for setting intentions and planting seeds related to Aquarian themes. Aquarius is associated with innovation, individuality, and eccentric or fringe hobbies. I always pick up a new book on tarot reading on the Aquarius new moon. I noticed this pattern last year thanks to my Amazon shopping history. But I do always find myself in like a little used bookstore or shopping online for a tarot book. I have no idea why, but it's always around that time. The significance of the new moon is one, innovation and change. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, the planet of innovation and change. So this new moon encourages embracing new ideas and breaking free from old patterns. It also asks you to touch base with your individuality and authenticity. It's a time to celebrate your unique qualities and express yourself. Be true to yourself and pursue your goals with authenticity. Take the inspiration of your bold self from the previous Leo full moon and see how you can be that person within a group or like a collective. Leo is the sister sign of Aquarius. So whereas Aquarius asks us to let our inner freak flag fly, Leo says, great, let's do this in a pride. How can we do this in a group, in a community? And Aquarius also asks what's important to you in your community and what kind of social causes can you tap into or volunteer with. Aquarius is linked to humanitarian efforts and social causes. So this new moon invites you to connect with like-minded individuals and contribute to community projects. One idea I had for this is creating a vision of your future self board. And basically it's a vision board with an Aquarian twist. And I'll have directions for that on our Instagram page.
Great. Thanks, Elle, for sharing your insights on embracing innovation and change during the new moon in Aquarius. It's fascinating to explore how these energies inspire personal growth and authenticity. Speaking of envisioning the future, you mentioned the concept of the vision board, and I know you're going to do an Instagram post, but for those that may not be on there, could you share an example or goal that you plan to set during this new moon? And it might spark some ideas for our listeners.
Sure. Yeah. I like to create a quiet space and connect to my higher self or an ideal version of my future self. Like, what am I doing? What does my day to day look like? And then in order to get there, I ask myself, what does that look like? What are small steps that I can do, gentle shifts to bring about big change? So I'll bust out a bunch of magazines and cut out pictures and words that align with that vision and put them together on a board just so I can see them every day and kind of touch base with that idea of who I am becoming.
That's really cool. Thanks. I've done a vision board once, and I did find it nice to reflect on that. I had it in my closet. So it was something where I walked in to get dressed that day. It was kind of a reminder of the things that I wanted to work on that year. And I also think it's great if people have magazines laying around. It's a great way to repurpose that material. I know a specific goal of mine this year is to learn more specifics about the environmental science field is very broad.
Yeah.
Everyone has their specialties, and mine is often wildlife, and I understand systems very well and processes. But it's really hard to learn everything. Two goals of mine is, I'm very into ornithology. So this year, I can see them by sight, and I know the species, and I know a lot about the mechanisms and how they work, and their nesting habits, and all that really cool stuff. But I haven't spent a lot of time learning bird calls.
Okay.
And you don't always see birds when you go out birding. So that's one of my things that I'd like to try to work on this year, as well as, learning about all of the native trees, making it a little easier for me to identify them, especially when I take visitors at nonprofits that I volunteer for on guided trails. We can maybe look at a book together, or I can have like a key sheet where we can identify things together. So that's one, or the two items that I have. So I think my vision board would have a lot of pictures of trees and birds on there. But moving forward with the Sabbat this month, Elle, I'd love to hear about how you are connected, or how you feel very connected when it comes to Brigid and Imbolc. Could you share some more information on that?
Yeah, so the equinoxes and solstices have been a part of my seasonal experiences since early childhood. We didn't have any specific ways of celebrating them other than they were acknowledged, and we did seasonal activities, basically the traditional pagan activities with their modern Christian twist. Um, the first cross quarter holiday I really celebrated intentionally was Imbolc, and I don't think that that was an accident. I've always loved Groundhog Day, and it was so mysterious and fascinating. Like, where did it come from, and why are we relying on a marmot to predict the weather? And no one could really answer these questions for me. And if you're also curious about how modern day Groundhog Day came to be, what it is, I suggest looking up the book Missing Witches. They have a really great intro to Imbolc and the reasoning behind this modern practice. But I digress. It wasn't until several years later that I discovered Brigid and Imbolc. And the year we hosted Imbolc, Kerri, you were actually the one who introduced us, so thank you for that. You gifted me the Brigid book and her coin with the prayer on it, and I have been smitten ever since. Honestly, Brigid found me long before I found her. And the first year I remember feeling her presence, I lived in like 1,000 square foot house with an extremely strong willed toddler. And the winter time felt claustrophobic. And this was the first year in our house, so I didn't know like what grew in the yard. And I remember having a particularly hard day. But it was warm outside because we get these rogue 70-degree days in January here in the South. And we had a playground down the street. So I got my son dressed and I got myself dressed. And out of just exasperation, decided we were going to go to the park to run off some energy. And when we stepped outside, we came around the mailbox. I noticed 3 stems were just shooting up from the ground. And I swear they had not been there the day before, or I just didn't notice them. But I did today, this day, because there were just little flowers that lived on top of those stems and they were just about to burst out of their buds. And that was really how I was feeling. I was about to burst out of my bud. And as we got closer to investigate, they looked like just little bursts of sunshine. And my heart immediately just felt so much gratitude and joy for this little yellow flower. And the day was completely changed because of it. Because I knew that those flowers were a promise. They were a promise that spring was on the way, and I just felt relief. And I think that's what Imbolc is. It's a promise that spring is on the way, but it's also saying, hey, you're halfway there. So it might be a good time to just kind of look back at your goals from January, look at the baggage that you're really holding on to, and see like what you can leave in the previous year. Take some time to unpack things. And really just do the work of letting that go. Do you have any little leaves just hanging on to you that you can't let go of? It's a time for purification, so specifically by fire. So asking what can be burned, and more importantly, who will rise from these ashes. So I dug up those daffodil bulbs and I have brought them to every place that we've lived since.
Of course. I expect nothing less.
I just like spreading them around, the hope with me as I move around. I did leave some, but like, those original bulbs travel with me now.
Aww. I had momentarily forgotten about the gift I gave you, but it makes me feel really good that it sparked something special for you. I always try to be like intentional with my gifts, especially to people I care about. So I love your retelling of how you unknowingly celebrated Brigid before you knew about her. Could you tell us more about who she is?
So Brigid or Bridget, Brid, Bree, Bride. I don't think Bree is one. It might be.
It is now.
She's a lot of variations because she's an ancient Celtic goddess. She was the daughter of the Dagda. I think that's how you pronounce that. Don't come after me. With as many names as her many talents, who has evolved and grown over time with her beloved devotees. I'm going to quote Courtney Weber here, who wrote the book Brigid, History, Mystery, and Magic of the Celtic Goddess, because she sums it up so beautifully. Brigid is the goddess of the forge and anvil, of poets, painters, and prophets. She's the goddess of healing as well as battle, of fire, but also water, of love and of death. She blesses small animals, guards orphan children, and challenges authority. She has crossed the chasm of regional land goddess to Christian saint and back again, to its contemporary goddess of a global scope. Distinct as the multiple of tongues that speak her name, and deeply rooted in creation, destruction, regeneration, and sometimes contradiction. This is Brigid. Imbolc is celebrated February 1st through 2nd, and it's known in pop culture as Groundhog Day and the Christian holiday Candlemas.
Oh, thank you, Elle, for unraveling Brigid's essence and guiding us through the evolution of this ancient Celtic goddess. The multifaceted nature of Brigid as the goddess of forge, poetry, healing, and more truly paints a vivid picture of her significance. Now, as we step into the season of Imbolc, celebrated, as you said, on February 1st and 2nd, it's clear that this festival carries a deep connection to the goddess herself. Imbolc, often recognized, as you said, in pop culture as Groundhog Day and in Christianity as Candlemas, marks a potent time for reflection and purification. Joining me now in a wonderful opportunity to explore and share ways to celebrate Imbolc, let's dive into some ways we can honor Brigid, Imbolc, and embrace the promise of spring during this magical time. Fire plays a big role, which is my favorite part of most Sabbats. I love how each one usually mentions the need for fire, and the teen pyro in me is very well fed during these times. So Imbolc is no exception. Light your indoor fireplace or fire pit outside if the weather allows. Typically, people who celebrate burn their Yule evergreen tree or other evergreen decorations during this time. Relating to the triple goddess, Imbolc brings about the maiden, like Beltane does to the mother and Mabon to the crone. You can honor the maiden by visiting a natural spring or holy well, give offerings, and lighting candles for her at your altar. As stated before in our previous episode, it's a good time to continue to clean and purify your home. It could be cleaning up, organizing, or even opening your windows for a brief time to cleanse the air in your home. With staying indoors a lot during the colder months, we're introduced to more of that indoor air quality pollutants we might not normally be respiring on a regular basis. Based on the type of building materials, cleaning or chemical products, cooking, ventilation, and air filtration systems, this usually leaves a higher concentration in the home. And it just depends on what products you use. So if you don't feel comfortable opening the windows, or in addition to checking your home or apartment air filters, as they should be changed every 3 months, check the ventilation shaft. Could it use someone to come out and clean it? How is the stovetop vent working? Are there any blockages in or outside the home? What products are you using for your personal body and cleaning products? And could you find something more environmentally friendly and sustainable? I think also if you're checking the ventilations of various systems in and outside your home, also checking your dryer. I know my dryer's like, it's time to kind of clean that hose out, clean the inside, which I should do on a more regular basis. But we don't want to cause any literal fires that are unintended.
I was going to say that is one of the number one causes of fires in homes.
So get yourself a kit, check it out. I know it might seem kind of scary, but it's not too bad to unhook the back hose and empty that out. When doing some self-care during Imbolc, we suggest taking some time to engage in writing or other creative activities. I like to meditate in front of a fire, drink some hot cocoa or warm tea, sit and be present. It just feels like restorative to be present and think about my own inner light. If you are crafty, you can make a Brigid cross and hang it over the doorway. Maybe make some metal craft, jewelry, or some other sorts, since Brigid was also known for smithcraft. Creating a bath bomb or herb satchel for a nice restorative soak could be rejuvenating and purifying activity. Being very intentional about washing your hands and your feet and your body might also be really good to thank your body for doing all of the work for you.
I like to make a milk bath this time of year too.
Yeah, that's always, we made that one year and that was really nice. I love that. Placing a broom near your door, you could buy one or make one, but it symbolizes sweeping out the stale energy of winter. I always have a broom over my door, not just for that, but I think it's also tied to like protection. Like it kind of keeps evil energy out, people I don't want to deal with. Often they look at it and they're like, that scares me, and leaves, and it does its job. So
I think a witch lives to her.
Right? So thank you, broom. Stretching exercises or yoga-like flows, like visualizing kind of movements that have like Brigid kind of rising from the ground and emerging with her fire in the plants.
Hot yoga.
Right? Hot yoga.
A lot of hot yoga this time of year.
I do. I do it even during the summer.
I do not.
Yeah.
It's hot enough outside in the summer. No big deal.
I will digress if I keep talking about that. But if your ground isn't frozen or covered in snow, you could start prepping the beds and soil for the upcoming garden season during Ostara. Cleaning out the old plants and figuring out what arrangements you will put in them in the coming spring.
Oh, and just a little tidbit to add to that. Putting a layer of leaf mulch on top will help like kind of tuck everything in and give you that added compost. So I like to I just did that at my community garden recently. I just put a bunch of, not leaves, but leaf mulch, like kind of broken down leaves or leaves that have been like kind of crumpled up so they'll go into the soil quickly.
Making food for the community is another area which could be your area community, or it could be your friends or family, kind of like you did at Mabon. You can do stone soup which would be a great meal, as it symbolizes bringing together the last of the winter food you harvested at that time. It warms the body and soul like a fire on a cold night. And I cannot wait to celebrate with you, Elle.
We made stone soup one year, didn't we?
I did. Yeah, we did. I can't remember if that was for Imbolc or if that was for like just celebrating the end of the harvest, maybe around
It was definitely
Mabon.
winter time.
It was winter time.
It was either for Yule or Imbolc.
Yeah.
But regardless, I like smaller gatherings for this Sabbat. Sometimes we do like big family things, but this one I feel like is always pretty intimate, where we just have the adults and we do our usual like potluck style evening gathering, this time with Imbolc inspired foods.
And before we discuss altar options, I can't help but wonder, will there be any dishes inspired by the goddess Brigid herself at her upcoming potluck? Perhaps a special recipe for Brigid's bountiful brie or flame-kissed shepherd's pie? Any delightful culinary twists you'd like to share with our listeners as we envision our Imbolc feast?
All of the above. This is one of my favorites because it's all about bread, nuts, and dairy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'll have all of them.
Yes.
Every February is when livestock start to lactate before giving birth in spring. So that's how milk became synonymous with Imbolc. I do like a good baked brie.
Mhm.
Sometimes, well, I think we both ended up making it with blackberries last year.
I mean, it kind of pairs so well with
It
that.
does. And I'm not sure why that's an Imbolc food, but I see it on a lot of posts because blackberries are not in season right now. Although I have been seeing them and they're good. They're in season somewhere.
I would say up north, like when I've talked about this before, not on the podcast, but when I moved down here, I was like, why is strawberry season in such a warm time of the year? Like growing up in New Hampshire, we always picked berries when it was still frozen outside. It was still frosty. And you had all these berries kind of along the side of the road. I'm pretty sure it was somebody's property, but my mom's like, oh, this is a really cool place. Before, we head over the Summersworth Bridge, like, let's grab these berries on the side of the road that looked like they were arranged on purpose. But I thought they were wild.
I love it.
But yeah, I always felt like they had a little frost on them and they were the best.
Maybe that's why. I do really like rosemary drop biscuits this time of year, and baked apples are always a good call.
Yeah. For more on that, check out our Instagram page for specific ideas and recipes that we'll be posting throughout the month. Now, what are some altar options, you may ask? Well, colors to consider are red, white, yellow, and pink. These colors are associated with Imbolc and represent various aspects of the season. Red symbolizes the returning warmth and energy. White signifies the purity and cleanliness of the melting snow. Yellow represents the increasing sunlight, and pink can symbolize the early hints of spring. For flower options could be snowdrops, violets, crocus, daffodils, and forsythia. These flowers are often associated with Imbolc as they represent the first signs of spring. Snowdrops symbolize hope and rebirth. Violets embody love and spirituality. I always name my daughter that name because they can kind of grow anywhere. And they're just very adaptable and
they are resilient.
And beautiful. They're resilient. Crocus signifies awakening and cheerfulness, and daffodils represent renewal and the promise of spring. And forsythia is a harbinger of warmer days. Decorations and symbols of the Sabbat include potted bulbs, Brigid crosses, sheeps, cows, plows, cauldrons, poems and poetry books, and candles. So, Elle, how will you decorate your altar this year?
My Brigid altar is pretty simple. I usually include a picture of her that I really like and evergreens that I collect after a storm. So the water fire symbolism here plays a little part in this. Whenever there's a big storm at the end of winter, I will take a walk very intentionally and look for things. This year I found a gorgeous holly branch with all the berries still on it. some pine cones and some evergreen branches. I just brought them home and shook them out. I left them on my porch for a couple hours just to give any bugs or critters like a opportunity to leave. And then I just created a green space inside. I always have a red candle. This year I have like a little collapsible apple basket that I found that I thought resonated. But maybe I have a big amethyst, like a big, like open ended, how would you call it? Like a raw amethyst with all the little crystals protruding from it. I throw that on there. But what kind of stones, other than amethyst that I just gave away, would you use for Imbolc?
Well, I only have 2. So, because I could talk all day about gemstones. I have gems all over my house. I, in fact, have a large case with all of the gems in there. And yes, when my kids are old enough that the playroom gets to transition into something else, it will literally be the rock room. Like, that is what's going to happen. I don't know what the energy is going to feel like with all those stones in there in one place. Right? It's like, this is a huge fight. Does everyone feel their aura and everyone else is in the world? But the first stone I think of is bloodstone. It's a deep green color with red flecks, and it's associated with both the earth and the life force within. In the context of Imbolc, it can symbolize the awakening and renewal of the earth as it prepares for spring. The red specks in the bloodstone can invoke the vitality and life-giving energy associated with Brigid. And then amethyst, known for its purple hues, is often linked to spiritual insight, clarity, and balance. In the context of Imbolc, amethyst can symbolize the transition from the darker days of winter to the emerging light of spring. It aligns with the themes of inner reflection, spiritual growth, and the anticipation of the returning warmth. And I also think it's kind of a nice tie-in when it comes to Valentine's Day and love. So
it's a very Aquarian stone, amethyst,
isn't it? I always think of like that pale purple with like really cool, intelligent, but like spacey, like Aquarius is.
Yes.
So Elle, what kind of herbs could we consider using for our altar?
I love rosemary because it's like an every Sabbat herb. It's my go-to.
It is in all my yard. Like, it's my whole yard.
It's easy. Most people know what it is. A lot of people have it growing. It's very accessible, right? It's an evergreen shrub that represents life throughout the winter season. It's good for memory and breaking down the wintertime brain fog. It's perfect for Brigid's Day rituals and concoctions. You can make rosemary crowns, wreaths, altar decorations. You can add rosemary to your Imbolc purification bath. You can make an herb bundle for smoke cleansing. You can use it in candle spells. And of course, you can put it in food. So who doesn't like just a jack of all herbs, a rose of all herbs? I'm going for something there.
It takes practice.
It's hitting flat. And since we already mentioned daffodils, I do want to talk about another early spring delight, and that is dandelion. And I don't know why people are so prone to starting a war with dandelions these days, but Taraxacum officinale, it's her official name, and they're some of the first flowers to bloom in spring. And they're quite prominent as flowers go. They represent courage, joy, vitality, and wish fulfillment. Think about all those times as a kid when you blew a dandelion seed head and made a wish. So make a dandelion wine for Imbolc, or just use dandelions in your salads and potions. My favorite thing about dandelion is that every petal of the flower is actually an individual flower. If you look really closely at one of the petals, I'm using quotation, air quote petals, it has its own pistil and stamen, and that's why when it goes to seed, you get this little puffball, and that's because all of the flowers generates its own seed. Those are all dandelion seeds, the whole puffball, which is fascinating, and I think it's very appropriate for Aquarius season, where each one of us as individuals and our authentic selves coming together to create community or creating a whole beautiful little sunshine flower. So that's why I think dandelion is a good representation. Another thing I want to mention quickly is a dandelion root is very good cleansing alterative, and alterative basically just means it's a cleansing herb. It's a good tonic for the liver, and we could all use some liver cleansing about this time of year. So you could make like a, I know a lot of people use like a roasted dandelion root like as an alternative to coffee. I put it in my coffee because I'm not trying to give up my coffee, but I'll have coffee with dandelion root in it. As I mentioned, Brigid has evolved over time. One of the most unexpected places I found Brigid was in New Orleans. Brigid has a stronghold in the British Isles, which is probably why I have always felt so connected to her, because I have a lot of ancestors from that area, specifically Wales and Ireland. Now, one of the interesting evolutions of this goddess is her ability to walk between worlds, like how she became a Christian saint and then now more of a modern goddess. But in the early 1700s and the mid 1800s, 500,000 Irish, probably more, traded unpaid labor in exchange for passage to the Western Hemisphere. So basically, they were indentured servants, but they worked alongside and lived with enslaved Africans who were also forced to the Western Hemisphere to work, but didn't have the prospect of eventual freedom. Now, this is where it gets a little hairy and where it evolves beyond my scope of ancestral roots. So if anyone has input on this, please reach out. And if you're interested in more about what I'm about to talk about, there are people more qualified and experienced with Brigid's dance into the Voodoo religion. She is the only Loa who is light-skinned, and she's depicted as having red hair. So this crossover is a little different. In the Voodoo religion, she is known as Mama Brigid and is said to live in an oak tree in a cemetery. Now, the oak tree is definitely, I feel like, a nod to Celtic culture. Mm-hmm. And she is the wife of Baron Samedi, the father of the underworld. In Voodoo, she is called upon to connect to ancestor spirit in situations requiring justice. Mama Brigid loves to drink, I think it's called Pima. It's a rum infused with 21 hot peppers, and it's a potion so strong, no mortal who is not under the influence of a spirit can withstand it. The first woman
Take that as a challenge.
The first woman buried in a cemetery in New Orleans, and from what I understand, also Haiti and other places, is referred to as the Brigitte. She's a fierce spirit wrapped in the warmth of love. She dances with the flames, unapologetically adorned in the eloquence of bold, fiery language. That's just a really nice way of saying that she has a foul mouth. She's a goddess with a foul mouth.
And she dances.
And she dances.
Does it say Kerri? Does it? Is that my other name?
So she is known in Voodoo to be a magical dancer, a devoted wife, and a mother while keeping her independent spirit. Some claim it's a coincidence, while others say that the crossover is so clear that it cannot be ignored. My experience in New Orleans led me to believe that she has a strong presence there. And whether or not it means she has a strong presence within the Voodoo religion, it's not for me to say, but I definitely felt her in New Orleans. While we were touring a cemetery with friends, I heard drums in the distance, and most of our party went back to the hotel, and hearing the drums kind of put me in a trance. And a friend and I decided that we were going to walk toward the music and go to this drum circle that the cemetery guide had told us was every Sunday. On the way there, I remember these oak trees just spreading out their branches, almost like scooping us up. It just felt so nurturing to be under these trees, and the roots were just protruding from the sidewalk and making the cement just go every which way. So it was like kind of an adventure to get over there. You had to like be very conscious of where you were walking. And I just remember looking at those trees and feeling the magic with the Spanish moss dripping down from them. And when we got to the drum circle, they were taking a break, and I just took off my shoes and I really connected to the earth. And as the music started again, I felt like almost possessed, and my body just started moving. And I don't even really remember what happened, other than I just started dancing and standing at the edge of this circle. And then this beautiful black queen looked me dead in the eye and extended her hand and gave me the little, like, come on wave with her hands, and it invited me into the circle. And I just danced into that circle, and my spirit left my body for I don't even know how long, but it was magical. And I felt so connected to the earth and so connected to New Orleans and to the spirit of the sky. It was amazing. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but I was just going through these books for this episode and reading Courtney Weber's book again and doing a little research online. I learned that one of Mama Bridget's kind of like one of her things that she's known for is her fierce and amazing dancing. And that's how she connects with people. And it just clicked because I felt connected in New Orleans to a deity and I couldn't put my finger on it. But it had to have been Brigid. And it feels like that is my relationship with her a little bit. She kind of like sneaks up on me, or I'm just kind of like doing my own thing and she comes in very gently and usually not even like, I don't know about it until later, but she definitely co-creates with me in these experiences. So personally, I feel like she has a strong connection with New Orleans. And if that means that she has a connection to the Voodoo or not, I don't know. But there were a lot of Irish people that ended up there, and I definitely think that they brought her spirit with them. I love the connection of Brigid and her fierceness for social justice, and I find it poetic that she is the goddess for the Sabbat that lands on Black History Month.
Just when you were describing out in New Orleans, because I was so very tired, you were like dancing and drums, and I'm like, I'm there. But then I'm also like, my feet say no. So I went back to the hotel and I was so sad. But when you were talking about dancing around there, I remember it just reminded me of when we did the first Friday downtown, and we had your friend Andrea, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was Kelly and I felt like that same magical energy down that one little section off Moore Square where it's like cobblestone roadways, walkways, and just the lights hit everywhere and the music. And we were just like, we don't care who's around us. And we were dancing crazy, like just like we were in some trance, and it was just so much fun. And yeah, that just reminded me of that moment.
Well, as you were just painting that picture, I remember that. And there was also an aspect of social justice to that story. Do you remember there was the LGBTQ plus booth there, and they gave us all of those like bracelets and stuff. Yeah, that's wild. I kind of forgotten about that. But do you remember when we got back in New Orleans, we got back to the hotel and I was just like, I just connected with a deity and I have no idea what happened. Like I was like losing my mind trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I was like, damn it, my feet betrayed me.
All along, it was pretty much someone I already knew. But it's interesting because she just has so many aspects to her. And I love that about Brigid because I feel like she's a very relatable deity in the sense that she almost seems human. She has so much going on. She's very complicated, right?
Yeah. I don't even know what time of year that was when you were telling the story. I was trying to figure out, I was like, when? I mean, obviously I knew when New Orleans was. It was my birthday. But like I was trying to figure out when that first Friday was. Because like, man, we ate all that. It was in June. Because I'm like, we ate all that warm food and then we danced and then we taken pictures with some murals and we went up to the top of the parking deck for no apparent reason, and we were like talking to the moon
because we're all cats, so
and then we were like lighting stuff on fire. It was the best night. But yeah, maybe she was with us there. I
think so. It seems to be her style. She's very gentle usually. Every once in a while, she is also the goddess of the anvil, and she'll hold your feet to the flames. She feels like you're
I-
not paying attention.
I mean, I feel like that applies to a lot of goddesses. But yeah, thank you, Elle, for sharing such insightful and enchanting perspectives on Imbolc. You beautifully wove the tapestry of Brigid's diverse presence and the magical dance of connection in New Orleans. The essence of Imbolc feels more vibrant than ever. And as we wrap up this episode, I'm filled with a sense of warmth and anticipation for the coming spring. Look, the sun's coming out already. She's saying hi. And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed exploring the depths of Imbolc and its traditions with us. May the flame of inspiration guide your path. And that brings us to the end of another soul-soothing journey with Seasonal Reflections. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to show us some love. Hit that like button, subscribe to our podcast for more enriching content, and join the Seasonal Reflections community on Instagram at Seasonal Reflections.
Looking to infuse your days with the perfect seasonal sounds? Find our curated playlists on Spotify by searching Seasonal Reflections. From vibrant Beltane melodies to the cozy tunes of Yule, we've got the soundtrack to accompany every moment. Your support means the world to us.
Until next time, fellow nature lovers and cosmic dreamers,
stay rooted, stay curious, and most importantly,
stay wild.